Silence as a psychological weapon, the emotional power play of the silent treatment. The camera pans across a quiet living room. A phone screen lights up with unread messages. Someone waits, not just for a reply, but for acknowledgement, for proof that they still exist. Silence is often mistaken for peace, but in psychology, silence can also be a weapon. What is the silent treatment? In psychological terms, the silent treatment refers to the intentional withdrawal of communication in order to punish, control, or manipulate another person. This is not simply needing space or cooling off. The key difference is intent. According to the American Psychological Association, APA, persistent use of the silent treatment, especially as a pattern, can constitute emotional abuse, particularly when it is used to establish or maintain power over someone else. The silent treatment can appear in romantic relationships, families, friendships, and workplaces, and it is often justified under the label of avoiding conflict. Now, silence versus healthy space. An important distinction must be made. Healthy space is not the same as the silent treatment. Healthy space is clearly communicated. Silent treatment has no explanation. Healthy space is time-limited. Silent treatment is indefinite. Healthy space is self-regulation. Silent treatment is punishment. Healthy silence preserves connection. The silent treatment denies connection. Now, why silence hurts so deeply? The brain science. The human brain is wired for social survival. Neuroscience research from UCLA, Eisenberger et al., demonstrates that social rejection and emotional exclusion activate the same neural pathways as physical pain. In other words, being ignored registers as injury. Silence is processed as a threat. When someone deliberately withholds communication, the amygdala triggers a fear response. Cortisol, the stress hormone, increases, and self-worth begins to erode. This is why the silent treatment is not merely uncomfortable, it is psychologically destabilizing. Silence as an emotional power play. At its core, the silent treatment is about power and control. It operates on 3 psychological levels. 1. Control over reality. When communication stops, the target doesn't know what they did wrong. They begin to question their memory and perception. This dynamic closely resembles gaslighting, where uncertainty is weaponized. 2. Control over emotions. The person being ignored often apologizes without understanding why, over-explains, minimizes their own needs. Silence communicates one message: you decide when you are worthy of engagement. 3. Control over attachment. For emotionally bonded individuals, silence functions as a withdrawal of love. This is especially damaging for people with histories of emotional neglect or anxious attachment styles. The fear is not just conflict, it is abandonment. The silent treatment in romantic relationships. US-based relationship research shows that the silent treatment may reduce open conflict in the short term. Over time, it significantly reduces relationship satisfaction. A common cycle emerges. One partner withdraws, the other pursues. A power imbalance forms. Over time, emotional intimacy declines, resentment grows, and psychological safety collapses. Left unchecked, this pattern can evolve into emotionally abusive dynamics. Silence in families and parenting. When parents use silence as discipline, "You disappointed me," "You don't exist until you behave." Child development research shows that children interpret silence as rejection. It interferes with emotional regulation and self-esteem. As adults, these children often fear conflict, overfunction for approval, and struggle to set boundaries. Silence teaches them that love is conditional. Workplace silence, a hidden weapon. In professional environments, silence appears as ignored emails, exclusion from meetings, social isolation. Organizational psychology classifies this as passive-aggressive behavior. U.S. workplace studies link emotional exclusion to increased stress, burnout, and reduced productivity. Silence becomes a tool of marginalization without leaving evidence. Why people use the silent treatment? Common underlying reasons include emotional immaturity, fear of confrontation, desire for dominance, and learned behavior from family systems. A critical truth: the silent treatment is not strength, it is a sign of limited emotional skill. Recognizing the silent treatment early on. Warning signs include silence without explanation, a repeated pattern following conflict, communication withheld until you apologize, silence framed as a lesson. If silence is not clearly explained, not time-bound, not mutually agreed upon, then it is not a boundary, it is punishment. Breaking the power of silence. Psychologists recommend name the behavior. I'm open to taking space, but not to being ignored. Avoid over-pursuing. Excessive apologies reinforce imbalance. Set communication boundaries. We can pause and talk later. Disappearing isn't okay. Track patterns, not incidents. One moment doesn't equal abuse. Repetition is concern. Seek professional support. Therapy is especially helpful in trauma-bonded relationships. At last, we discuss about silence itself is not harmful, but when silence is used for control, punishment, or dominance, it becomes a weapon. Healthy relationships are built on communication, not on the fear of being erased. Fade to black.